Hello everyone, you've tuned into Business Today TV and I'm Akanksha. Today we have with us a very special guest. She's Shamika Ravi. She's the Director of Research at Brookings Institution and she's an economist. Thank you for joining us, ma'am. Ma'am, in our session, you spoke about smart subsidies. So could you shed more light on that?
First of all, I'm a senior fellow at Brookings Institution. Well, subsidies are not a bad word. I think it's important to know that in a developing country, frankly, every country has different forms of subsidies. But in a developing country, I think the onus is much greater on the state to provide basic minimum sustenance, namely food, first of all, basic health, education. So there will always be a role for subsidies. The issue is how do you design it in such a way that it doesn't become, first of all, it is feasible, meaning you have the money for it. But more importantly, I think it's important to not just look at it from an accounting sense of money, but an opportunity cost or an economic cost of it, which is how does it distort incentives in the economy? So if you're going to subsidize one sector or one part of the economy, what impact does it have? How does it distort the rest of the economy? And if it does, then you might be really worse off in the long run.
Okay, ma'am, that's really insightful. One of your research papers, India 2024, it talks about a highly skilled Indian population. And we are in 2022 right now. How far along do you think we have come?
Well, we are really pretty far from that pipe dream, simply because we're a young country, we're a very large young country, and our youth unemployment is very high. Youth inactivity is a global phenomenon, but for us, it is a very significant concern. The second is we have particularly high unemployment rate amongst the highly educated segment in the market. So the youth who are holding graduate degree and above are almost 5.5, 6 times as likely to be unemployed than the youth who have minimum education. So clearly, the quality of schooling, the nature of skill that they possess is a problem.
All right, ma'am. And talking about from your session, you also spoke about the fact that India needs to make strides in the renewable energy sector, not just the traditional forms of energy, because we have a lot of consumption, but most of it, like a major chunk of it, is from exports. So could you shed light on that as to how we can gear up in this sector?
Well, India being a young, low middle income country, we have a long way to go, which means we are going to continue being hungry in terms of energy. We want a lot of energy, for our growth. Currently, we import more than 30% of our energy that we consume. That is a very large number. It might be one of the highest amongst major economies, which means our dependence on external factors is strategically too high. So we need to become self-reliant as far as energy sector is concerned. And I think that is the context within which one has to appreciate this push and the call for Atmanirbharta. Energy is one sector where we will have to push renewable. And this has to become a mass movement, the kind Green Revolution was, that the technology existed, but eventually you had to convince individual farmers to adopt this technology. I think in energy, we really need to do the same.
One last question. Many states have been saying that the off-balance sheet borrowing shouldn't be counted in as debt. Do you agree with that?
Well, it adds to the fiscal burden of the state, whether they are measuring it in that form or not. We are currently seeing that many states, if you just look at the debt to GDP, it is becoming non-feasible. I think it is high time we have this very serious discussion of the fiscal viability, and not just from the FRBM framework. So we do have a legal framework within which I think the current spending of the states can be looked at, or the borrowing can be looked at. But more importantly, we need to start looking at this discussion from policy making, which is distorting the very nature of growth that states are having. So for instance, and the case of Punjab becomes very interesting because in Punjab, agriculture was cross-subsidized to an extent which made manufacturing and services non-viable, which is why we saw a very rapid deindustrialization of Punjab over the last 25, 30 years. Jalandhar, Ludhiana, Amritsar, they used to be a low-end manufacturing, a hub in India. And today they've all migrated, they've all moved out of the state to the neighboring state. So you see, in an environment where you have competitive federalism, where states are competing to attract businesses, namely manufacturing and services in particular, I think states have to be very careful in terms of, the policies and the kind of subsidies they're going to give out today.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.